Hey there friends, it's Michelle here. Welcome to another Health Coach Skills tutorial. So today we're going to talk all about what not to say as a health coach. So that's what we're going to get into. I'm just going to share this to my Facebook group and then we'll get going. So hope you're having a great day. Yeah, so let me just get this going here. This is going to be a fun topic. I'm going to share a few of my pet peeves when it comes to language and health coaching. So I think this is going to be a fun one. So let me just share this. And post. Awesome. Great, so my computer's a little slow today. There we go. Awesome. Welcome everyone. It's Michelle McLean here with another Health Coach Skills tutorial today. And today we're talking all about what not to say as a health coach. So I listen to somewhere between 20 and 30 coaching demos each week, depending on kind of where I am in my work cycle. But when I'm doing a lot of coaching and listening into a lot of demos, somewhere between 20 and 30 a week. So I listen into a lot of new coaches practice their coaching skills, and what I've listened into and what I've heard over a number of years are some language that maybe doesn't feel quite coach-like. And so it is something that I do share in terms of feedback with new coaches to remind them of this language. And what I want to reiterate, or I guess just really highlight, is that why this happens is that because most of us aren't walking around talking in coach speak or coach language all the time, right? We're talking to our girlfriends, we're talking to our spouses, our partners, our kids, our coworkers, and we're supportive, we're encouraging, we want to cheer people on. It's all coming from that place that we really just want to support and encourage our friends, and then that kind of sort of seeps into the coaching relationship a little bit. So I've developed a few pet peeves over the years, just things that, kind of little red flags go off for me when I hear this language, when I hear these words. And so today I just wanted to share with you a few of those and give you some insights into what you could say instead that would be a little bit more coach-like. So I just have a few notes just to kind of guide me along here to make sure that I don't miss any little tidbits that I want to share with you today. So the first sort of pet peeve and words and language that I wanted to share with you that I don't feel is very coach-like are when I hear people saying, "I think," and "I love." So again, those sound like they would be encouraging, supportive words. As coaches, we can be cheerleaders a little bit. But when I hear coaches say, "I think," or they begin their reflections with, "I think," what really is happening here is that we're keeping it focused on the coach versus the client. So some things that I hear are things like, "I think that is a great goal for you," or "I think that is an awesome action step," or "I think that sounds amazing," right? We're just being supportive, encouraging, and giving our approval, right? This is very normal. It's how we would interact and speak to our friends and our kids, right? And so what it really does is, again, it makes it about the coach. It takes the focus off of the client and makes it all about the coach. It's like the coach is giving their stamp of approval on whatever the client has just said. So another way I hear "I think" is things like, "I think that's normal," "I think everyone does that," "I think you're right to think that," "I think you should feel frustrated by that," right? All of these kinds of "I thinks" tend to then be followed by an opinion, right? The coach is then going to give their opinion on whatever that situation or scenario is. So here's my thinking on that, right? "I think this," and then here's my, elaborated thinking on that point. So again, it is not about you as the coach, right? It's not about your opinion. It's not about you sharing your perspective. Coaching is all about eliciting all of that from the client. What does the client think? What does the client feel? What's their perspective or opinion? That's what we want to be getting at, right? So we really do want to keep things client-centered. So we want to have the client in the driver's seat. We don't want to make this about the coach. And like I said, when we hear or when we say, I think, again, that's going to be focused on the coach. So then my second pet peeve is the I loves, right? So the most common one I just hear are coaches just saying every time after the client speaks, the coach would just say, I love that. I love that. Oh, I just love that. Oh, I love that. I think that's great. So we kind of get into the I loves and I thinks can kind of be all enmeshed into one. And so I feel like coaches do this, number one, just to sort of fill space. One, they aren't sure what to say when the client shares something, especially if it is something cool and amazing, right? We want to give our approval. We want to have the client feel like we're on board with them. We agree with them. We're on the same page and that we approve of it. But really, when it comes down to it, the I thinks and I loves are, again, just all about the coach. And so bottom line here is that in coaching, it is not about what you as the coach think or what you love or what you like, your preferences, right? Those aren't really very coach-like words or phrases to use. We don't want to make it about us. We don't want also to have the client to be looking for approval from us, right? So when we start using all that, I love that, I think this, I love that, the client might start to want that approval from you, right? To please you, to get that, positive affirmation back. So also when we use this kind of language, it really can sort of shift the neutral balance of power that we really should have in the coaching relationship. That the coach has a role, the client has a role, it's very neutral. One is not above the other, right? But when we start to do the I loves, I think, again, making it all about the client, about the coach, then that might shift that a little bit and have the client feel like they are not at the same level as you are, right? So it makes it all about the coach and not the client. So it's not client-centered language is the bottom line here. So, what can you do instead? So if you find yourself saying I think and saying I love all the time, I want to give you some suggestions for what you could say instead. So this is usually when we get into reflections, right? The client has shared something and then we are going to respond. So in coaching, right, we're meant to be reflecting what we're hearing, reflecting what the client has said. So great phrases to begin our reflections with would be things like, it sounds like, what I'm hearing is, what I heard you say is, let me see if I got this right, and reflect back what you've heard. Or we could do a summary. So let me summarize what I just heard. We could do a recap. So just to recap what I just heard you say is, so that is going to keep it all focused on the client, right? It's not about the coach's opinion. It's not about what I love or what I think. We're simply reflecting back what we're hearing the client say. So that is coach language, right? That is client-centered. It's focused on the client's thoughts, feelings, likes, and dislikes, right? It's all about the client. So those are the two first pet peeves, I think and I love. The next one is when I hear coaches saying we and our. So I'll explain a little bit more. So the intention behind this is that we're in this together, right? That we're partners, that I'm here for you, every step along the way. And absolutely, that is what the coaching relationship is all about, right? But when it comes to the responsibility for action plans, strategies, goals, that is all on the client. Yes, we as the coach are going to support the client in developing an action plan, but they're coming up with the action steps and it's their responsibility to actually do the action step. So I just want to give you a little sense of what this could sound like, things that I hear. So I hear things like, okay, so what is our action plan around this, right? What's our action plan around this? What can we do this week to work on this? What's an action step we can come up with? What's a goal we can set around this? Let's develop our action steps for next week, right? So you can hear that our and we, it's like we are doing it together. And, I just really want to highlight that we each have our roles and responsibilities. The coach is going to ask a lot of great high mileage questions to help the client come up with their own action plan, but we do not tell the client what to do. We're not inputting into the action plan or the action steps. And, we're not there to actually do the action steps. So I really want you to just see how when we use that language, it almost feels like the coach is developing the action plan or going to contribute to it, and that we're also going to be part of actually doing the work. So yes, I don't want to dismiss the fact that yes, we're there with our clients. We're supporting them every step along the way. We're encouraging. We're going to acknowledge and affirm them, their values, their strengths, their characteristics and traits. We want to do all of that as a coach. But really our job, our role is to use our active listening skills, to pose some high mileage questions so the client can do their own self-exploration, right? So as the coach, we're not developing the plan, we're not doing the action steps. It's really on the client to do that part of it. So what language could we use instead of we or our, right? When we're referring to goals and action plans. So we could just really use you, right? We put it on the client. So what can you commit to this week? What's one action step you can take around this? What's the first step you will take towards this? Repeat back to me what your plan is for the week, right? How will you hold yourself accountable? So we just use that you language when it comes down to the action step and the action plan. So I hope those are helpful. So top pet peeves, I think and I love, and when the coach uses we, when it gets into developing those action steps and goals. So I did have one other question that came in around this. Susanna wrote in and asked about, regarding coaching language, that how do we shift to that coach language when we're actually working maybe with a family member or a friend, when we've got that previous relationship. So I think this is a really good point because what she said is, we just are friends and we get into chit-chatting and we never really use that coach language or get into the coaching. So my first suggestion here is always, try not to work with friends and family. I know that's where so many coaches like to start because it's easy, it's convenient. But when you're getting into paying clients, it really would be great if you have, friends of a friend, acquaintances, just further out, beyond your inner circle, people who you don't know all that well. So, because it is really, really hard for us to fully step into the coaching role, if we have a previous relationship, if it's a coworker, if it's a friend, if it's, a family member, those relationships, those other people are going to know us in another capacity, right? They're not going to be really fully seeing us as health coaches. So it's really hard to shift into that coach mode. So, if you do find yourself in a situation where you are working with a friend or a family member, I think there are a couple of steps that you can take. The first one is to really show up, from the very first interaction that you're having around this coaching piece as a coach. You want to set up the coaching relationship with an agreement, with roles and responsibilities, right? We're really formalizing this, that this is different from when we go for coffee, right? This is our coaching work. This is our coaching relationship. So that's my first tip. Set it up as a coaching relationship, have that agreement, make sure that you both, are clear with the roles and responsibilities of the coaching relationship. And then, once you get into the coaching session, you could take a few minutes at the very beginning to have your, 2 or 3 minutes of a little chit chat, that warm opening. Please don't make that, a long thing, because once you get into that, it's going to be really hard to get yourself out of it. So, hey, how you doing? Great weather today, whatever the case is, make it really short. And then really, make a statement that lets the client know, your friend or family member, that you are shifting into coach mode. So you could say things like, all right, are you ready to start coaching now? Are you ready to begin our coaching session now? You could say, shall we start coaching now? You could also say something like, do I have your permission to coach you today? Right? So that's going to signify I'm stepping into my coach role, my coach mode, no longer your friend. This is this role that I'm stepping into, and let's now move into the actual coaching session. And then you would go through sort of all the steps of your coaching agenda. But I really can relate to how when we start out with friends and family, we can just shift into that friend or family mode, right? We're not stepping into the coach role. And that's why it is so tricky to work with friends and family and have that be a successful coaching relationship. So I hope those tips were helpful for you today to just get you thinking a little bit more about that coach language. Just start noticing within yourself, what is the language that you're using? Are you always saying, I love that? Is it more about what you think versus what the client thinks? And are you really trying to sort of overemphasize this partnership piece, by you taking responsibility for action steps by using that we and that our? So just before we go, I just wanted to just mention that my course and skills lab called Health Coaching Essentials is now open for enrollment. We start on October 6th. And if you're interested in up-leveling your health coaching skills this fall, I would really encourage you to check out the course. What I do is I provide structure, process, a framework to deliver a really effective health coaching process for your clients. And as well, it's all about refreshing your health coaching skills. And then each week you get to practice on the live skills labs with your colleagues. You get to practice each week. You get, invaluable feedback from me and your colleagues. And by the time we're done at the end of the 8 weeks, I really can promise you that you're going to be feeling so much more confident to put yourself out into the world as a health coach, to get those clients, and then really coach them effectively. So if you're interested, I am offering a short sort of time-limited bonus. If you do sign up in the next couple of days, I will offer you a free 30-minute mentoring session with me that you can use anytime during the course. So if you're interested, you could go to gethealthcoachskills.com. That's gethealthcoachskills.com, and check out all the details of the program. So have a great day, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye for now.